On cue now.
Now, right now. I just thought now would be very precise. When are you going to start? Now.
When will then be now?
Now. Exactly. You just passed it. Or is it now?
It's gone. What? When? We just passed it. When? Just now.
Just now. Just now. Here we go again. Hey, 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to Even More Mashed Up. We are the popular culture podcast that comes to you kind of virtually right now from Misericordia University. We are an English and a history professor sitting around talking about all things pop culture. I'm Alan.
And I'm Patrick. And as Alan said, we're still not in the studio. But even though we aren't in the room where it happens, we aren't helpless. So thanks to the magic of the internet, when it comes to this episode, you won't have to wait for it to be satisfied, nor ask, what did I miss? Of course, we can only hope that you'll be back, as I'm sure my right-hand man Alan will agree.
That's exactly what I was going to do, but I had no time or energy to actually put the work into that.
Bravo, that's effort. That's effort.
I did that in about 30 seconds.
You know what this show is going to do? This show is going to turn your world upside down.
Also, guns and chips.
Also, guns and chips.
I can't believe you didn't get the world turned upside down in that. That was, I think,
well, I wasn't sure how long you were going to let me go on. I figured I'm surprised you let me get through all that. I thought for sure you would be exasperated after the first couple of references.
It's clearly your magnum opus for the podcast. I think that's more work than you've put into a show to this point. So I wanted to
Okay, that is hurtful coming from the guy who, has more episodes where he just sits there and answers questions I've written.
Oh, that's happened 2 or 3 times. And by the way,
excuse me?
At least 4.
Answering questions that you have written that is a lot of work.
Yeah, but you don't have to do anything in advance of the show.
No, but it's paying for it psychologically on the back end.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that it's a lot of work, and yet you still suck at it in comparison to Rich, who is also here, by the way.
I am here.
But I actually won the last one,
yeah,
so
technically,
that seems insulting to Rich.
Okay, I was going to agree with you, but never mind.
Well, I'm trying to defend you.
To be fair, you won the first installment of the Flash quiz.
So I am the reigning champion.
No, because it's clearly a series.
Yeah.
So you
and
are
I
ahead.
wasn't able to call myself champion until we did a multiple.
Yeah. The concern is, are you going to be like the Golden State Warriors against the Cleveland Indians? No, not the Indians.
Wow.
Not the Browns.
That
Cavaliers. It's the Cavaliers.
That great NBA series between the Golden State Warriors and the Indians. Yeah, Patrick, that was a classic.
That was a classic.
Sure hope I don't choke that one away.
Wow. Yeah, I don't pay a lot of attention to the sports.
Not. Apparently not.
So anyways, if you couldn't figure out from the opening what we're talking about, this is our Hamilton reprise.
Oh, I thought it was Dear Evan Hansen this week.
No, I've not seen Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh, no, I took all these notes on Dear Evan Hansen.
Okay. Well, that
just hope we're not doing a podcast on Dear Evan Hansen.
Can we please?
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
No, shh. Now you just got recorded saying that.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay,
That's fine. Hope's a regular guest on the show.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Hope says we should do Dear Evan Hansen at some point. I think we should do a show on Ben Platt.
You should just do a show on
I mean, once Broadway has opened back up sometime in the future.
Well, I don't know why we have to wait for that. Why don't we just do a Ben Platt show?
Oh my God, can we please?
He just did The Politician, so we got that.
And
we got
Pitch
Dear
Perfect,
Evan Hansen and Pitch Perfect.
And he's in the movie.
And I just watched the Pitch Perfect trilogy, so I am ready to go.
Not a very good trilogy.
Well, you know, the third one is actually better than the third Star Wars prequel.
I mean, yeah, trilogy, but is that saying a lot?
So, I don't know. You know, I didn't find Pitch Perfect as off-putting as I thought it would, so there you go.
I mean, I'll give you that much, yeah.
Okay, should we get back to talking about Hamilton? And by get back, I mean start, because...
By Hamilton, do you mean yourself?
I'm fine with that.
I have no doubt that is true, actually.
Patrick Lawrence Hamilton.
My name is Patrick Lawrence Hamilton.
What is that
There's
Christmas
a million
play?
books I haven't read.
And I will not. Hey, would you go with a million books you haven't read?
That's just one option.
That would be the rest of
I
the,
am
the show. Would just be him listing.
P-A-T-R-I-C. Oh, wait, it totally works. I am the P-A-T-R-I-C-K. That totally...
It does.
We could write it, except
It does.
instead of it being about an immigrant who comes from the Caribbean and shapes the United States into what it is, it's like tangential descendant of conquistador who becomes an English professor.
The
That sounds like a-
conquistadors coming from Portugal.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's not historically accurate.
Doesn't
I think the
matter.
conquistadors were all the conquerors that came, correct?
I'm not sure that it includes the Portuguese ones.
Well, they
Plus,
did just as much...
he was more of a discoverer than a.
Well,
a
I'm sure that you
conqueror.
prefer to remember him as a discoverer, but the people on the
Yes,
other
just
end of
as
the
just as
discovering...
Hamilton prefers to remember Hamilton in ways that are not necessarily historically accurate.
Well, I mean, you've built a lifetime of historical inaccuracies to make yourself. But I think it's a great story. It's a great story.
Yeah.
It's
Anyways, can we talk
you're
about
not arriving
Hamilton,
in the new
Disney
world.
Plus?
You're arriving in Dallas, PA, and you step
That's
off.
like the new world.
You step off the bus, and then we.
Yes,
and
and
then,
immediately the world turned upside down.
yeah, you're coming from like the West Coast. We could totally do this.
Colorado, but yeah, West Coast.
Well, no, you grew up on the West Coast though. Like you got to go
Yeah,
back
but
to
I
your
came here
origins.
from Colorado.
Well, you came here from Oregon through Arkansas through Colorado to northeastern Pennsylvania
Right, so I came here from Colorado.
and Oregon.
No, I am originally from Oregon. I came here from
So
Colorado.
you are from Oregon.
Well,
That's all I
technically
need to hear.
California
Thank
is
you
where
very
was
much.
born.
No, I rest my
No.
case. You
But I
are
didn't
from
come
Oregon.
here from Oregon. I came here from
Sure
Colorado.
you did. You just took stops
No.
along the way.
No.
Yeah,
I came
totally.
here from Colorado.
Do you want to talk about Hamilton? Because you're just wasting a tremendous amount of time.
I thought we were talking about Hamilton. In the sense that we were talking about me, and I am a Hamilton.
I understand that.
Hey,
Now,
you want some fun facts?
do you have any lineage to Hamilton?
I don't know. Probably not.
Yes.
Do you want
Well,
any fun facts? I got fun facts.
You know, the last time you brought fun facts, it was about a movie in which kids were dying of cancer. So I'm not sure you understand what a fun fact is.
Fun fact.
No, there's no stopping you.
Just say yes.
Yes.
Do you want to take a guess where Hamilton is on the old Rotten Tomatoes?
Hamilton on the Rotten Tomatoes. Is that the most
what-
recent rating of Rotten Tomatoes?
As of today,
Okay. So you did the work this morning. Excellent.
yes.
Well, I would say that it would be in the high 90s, but there's been some criticism of Hamilton since since it reappeared on the Disney Plus. So I'm gonna knock it down a little bit, and I'm gonna say 92. No,
Is that with critics or with audiences?
critics and audiences. I don't know. I'm gonna say 89 critics, 93 audiences.
You are wrong on both.
I'm right on both.
Wrong on both.
Well, how could anybody get those right? That's just like random guessing.
It is. So the critics have it at 99%.
Wow. Okay.
Audiences have it at 91. So it does not seem like the pushback has really affected the critical appraisal of the film.
No, perhaps they all rated it before they realized that Hamilton, which was once kind of racially progressive, is now racially regressive, and so they're probably regretting giving it a 99.
It's possibly both.
Well, I don't want to walk the fence on it though. Which is it?
If you're looking at it from a certain point of view, it's one way. If you're looking at it from another point of view, it's another way.
Oh, that just sounds so postmodern.
Actually, no, I was quoting Star Wars there.
Which one?
From a certain point of view. Then Obi-Wan tells Luke when Luke is like, "Why did you tell me Darth Vader killed my father?"
Is that what he says? I
And
don't remember
Obi-Wan's
saying
like,
that at all.
"Well, when your dad became Darth Vader, it kind of destroyed who he was. So from a certain point of view, I was right."
Yeah, that's just Jedi
from a certain,
lying. Though.
from
Like,
a
that's
certain point
not,
of view,
that's-
I didn't actually lie. I just didn't tell the truth.
right.
I just didn't tell the
It's-
whole truth.
Yeah.
Oh, no. The Jedi tend to be the worst anyway, though. We all know that.
Yeah. Got another fun fact.
Oh boy.
Fun fact number 2.
All right. Do you want to guess
No.
Nope.
by what percent
We do not
downloads
wanna
of
guess.
the Disney app increased over the July 4th weekend?
You're going to have to read that again because I was telling you that I didn't want to answer.
By what percentage did downloads of the Disney app increase over the July 4th weekend when Hamilton was released?
Oh, I know this one for sure. I guarantee it's right. 88% increase.
No.
No, 102%
32.
increase.
No. No.
253.
No.
198.
9,999.
62.
Nope. Oh, you were close with that last one, Alan.
I thought you was
I can't
it.
remember
I
what I
was
said
close.
last.
I was, wait, 56?
No. Alan said 62. It's actually 72% increase in the
Wow,
U.S.
so they almost doubled their business. Impressive.
Yeah. Well, that also doesn't include people accessing it via, like, Fire Stick or Roku or things like
So
that.
now wait, that was
Ah,
percentage
the
of
old
how many
Fire
people began to access it or actually like bought the service?
That's compared to the average of the 4 weeks prior.
Ah. Okay.
See, had you told me it was the 4 weeks prior, I definitely would have said 72%.
Okay, well then, would you like to guess what the global increase was? Because the
No.
72 was just in the U.S.
The global's got 104.
No.
68.
No, the global was... No.
28.
No.
God, this is the worst podcast ever.
46.6.
46.6.
Yes. And so those are... fun facts.
You know, you just do fun facts, and you call them fun facts, but it's
I
just...
like how you say them like
Trojan
I'm supposed to
horse
hit a button and like
numbers back
music's
in
supposed to play. Like those fun facts. Do do do.
Could you make
Yeah,
that
I
happen,
actually
Rich?
did I actually did square up my paper like a newspaper.
Oh, okay.
And that's fun facts.
I would rather it be like a trumpet fanfare, Rich, whenever he says fun facts.
Da, da, da. Like
Yeah.
I can live with that. But it should be like a fun trumpet fanfare. It should be a trumpet fun fair.
now you've lost me.
It got quiet so quickly.
Well, the best part of this is that Bobby is sitting on the couch, and he cannot, for the life of himself, figure out what we're talking about. That has to do with Hamilton. Because he can only hear my half of
Because
the
it
conversation.
doesn't.
Because I got cans.
No, we did the fun facts. That was all about Hamilton. Hamilton fun facts.
Are the fun facts now done?
Yes.
Can we just stop with them now forever?
No.
Bobby just said it doesn't sound like the fun facts have started yet. So the fun facts are, I think, less popular than numbers.
That's hard to believe because numbers were not very popular.
People hated numbers, and I think fun facts.
No,
are
they
even
didn't
less
hate
popular.
them. They just didn't appreciate them in the way that I do.
But your fun facts
That
are
sounds
numbers.
like hatred
they're just
in
numbers
different
called
words.
something different.
No, they're fun facts. I can't help if the fun facts tend to be numerical, but maybe I'll bring up other fun facts at some point. But this was all that I had time to gather this morning.
So you went to Rotten Tomatoes.
And then looked up, ratings.
Got it.
I really wanted to find like a something like comparing it to other movie musicals, but that didn't really work.
Yeah. You miss your old, what was that
I
site
know.
you used to go to?
Box Office Mojo. It still exists, but all the good information is behind a paywall.
Yeah, but right.
Maybe we'll have to take a
obviously you're not gonna
donation fund
actually
to get you.
pay for their information. No.
Oh, maybe start a fundraiser for bringing numbers back.
GoFundMe?
Yeah.
Yes. There you
GoFundMe numbers?
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
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 So, anywho, do we want to
I would-
actually talk about the Disney Plus version?
Yeah, I keep trying to, but somebody keeps interrupting with fun facts.
All right, no, go ahead. I'm done with the fun facts.
All right, well, one of the things I thought we might talk about, and just I've got a couple ideas to throw out at you today, is the kind of the difference of the experience between seeing it in a theater and watching it on television.
Well, you would know having seen it in the theater like 5 or 6 times.
I have not seen it 5 or 6 times in the theater. I've only seen it 3 times
Oh, only 3. Okay.
in the
I'm
theater.
sorry.
But you also saw it in the theater.
once.
Yeah, but you were a full ticket guy. I just won the lottery.
Yes, you won the lottery that's intended for people that otherwise could not see it. 3
Yes,
times.
I would not have seen it. No, I didn't win the lottery 3 times. Now that's just ridiculous. I won the lottery twice. Second time I felt a little guilty. I was only entering the lottery because I was trying to build up points on the app, and you had to enter the lottery to get to the trivia questions.
You know you don't have to enter the lottery to get to the trivia questions.
No, I'm pretty sure you
Just
do have to
click
enter the
link.
lottery to get to those trivia questions.
No, because you can just go to the menu where it says trivia and click on that.
Are you sure that's true?
Yes, because I've done it.
Really? All right, I'm going to go to my Hamilton app right now.
You should be able to think you can just go to trivia.
Oh, there's a trivia button up here.
Oh, gee.
That looks new. Oh, no, sign up. That's no good. I'm already signed up. Oh, I don't remember what my password is.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
Yeah,
gee.
see where it says trivia? Oh, look at that. Drop some knowledge, and I didn't even have to enter the lottery.
Well, I think mine only works
Ma-
if I enter the lottery first.
Yes, because yours is probably unique to everyone else's. That is correct. So what you're saying is that you're exactly like me in that you've paid to go see Hamilton full price, and
Yes.
then you've taken advantage of the lottery to help people that can't see it by paying full price to see
Well,
it 2 more times.
The first time I saw it, I won the lottery because Vicky had already seen it, and I took one of the kids. Hey, look, I can go straight to the trivia.
Really? That's shocking.
Who knew that?
I did.
Well, I guess that's true. Who reads aloud the letter from James Reynolds in We Know? I think it's Thomas Jefferson. Oh, it's Aaron Burr.
Jefferson. Is it Aaron Burr?
Yep.
Oh, I should do the lottery.
We should.
Or not the lottery. I should do the trivia, because I know I'm going to get that first question right.
Well, I did not do
Oh, I
so
didn't get the
well
very
today.
first question!
So,
Yeah.
so I saw it once, and then I had to take the other kid to see it because one of our kids hadn't seen it. So I had to go then, and then I won the third lottery, but it was on our anniversary, so it seemed like Hamilton was telling us we should go see it for our anniversary.
Wait. I thought you said you won the third lottery. I thought you said you only won it twice.
No, I won the lottery for the third time I saw it. I won the lottery for
okay.
number 1. Then I had to take the other kid because kids get really competitive about that. And if one kid sees Hamilton and the other doesn't, you're in trouble. And then I was
well,
just
particularly
playing.
if the first kid you took was not Hope, I'm pretty sure she would stab you.
Well, it was, but I was going to get stabbed no matter what. So then,
Yeah, but I don't think Bobby would have been quite as invested in the
went.
stabbing.
Then we went, and although Bobby's not a big fan at this point, he went anyway, and we saw it. And then I won the third one, an opportunity to see it a third time, but only because I was trying to play the trivia game.
Mm-hmm. So
So really, you can't blame me for any of that.
I'm pretty sure I can.
Seems to me. So,
So you wanted to talk about the difference between the theatrical and filmed experiences.
I was trying to, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that.
So what did you think? What was your take?
It took me a couple songs to kind of stop comparing it to the
Yeah.
theatrical version.
Yeah.
When I first got into it, it felt. I mean, I kind of felt like, it's not the same as the theater, and so it took a little while for me to kind of get past that.
Yeah. But you did eventually?
I think. Yeah, I did, and part of it, I think that just has to do with the nature of Hamilton, which I think we talked about it when we talked about it on the show before, is that it's not a show that really relies on a great deal of theatrical spectacle in terms of set work and things like that. I mean, it really just hinges on the performances, and particularly once you get into the show, it's a lot of really individual performances, which I think translated really well into the film version.
Ah, I see. Interesting. Because to me, it was good to watch on television for sure. And like you, once I got accustomed to watching it on television, I enjoyed it. But to me, I realized how much I appreciate seeing something live in a theater as opposed to watching on television. Because the theater is so much more an immersive experience. And
Oh, yeah.
with Hamilton in particular, although I agree that there's not a lot of like the spectacular in terms of design and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of depth
Mm-hmm.
at any moment on the stage. And one of the things I'm really lucky. I've seen Hamilton more than once in a theater because there's so much to see, and it's almost as if you can't experience the whole show because
Yeah.
you have to decide what to look at. Like the ensemble in this show is just phenomenal, and the work they do is really, really just incredibly impressive work. But what I found lacking watching on television was that the director was always telling me what I had to look at, whereas I've become accustomed in the theater to making those choices for myself.
Mm.
And that was the part that I had the most trouble kind of putting away throughout the entirety of it. It was very entertaining and it was really well done, but it made me realize how much I miss going to see live theater.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's nothing. The film production, even at its best, can never be what seeing it in the theater would be.
Right. Absolutely.
So, but as a film, I thought it was really good.
Agreed. The second part that
And
made
I
it
like
different-
the fact that because you can't see the original cast. Like you didn't see the original cast. I didn't
No.
see the original cast.
Right.
So getting to see the original cast, I think, is nice.
For sure. Totally agree.
Totally agree. And I also, one of the things that surprised me is the one that I saw in the theater. I don't remember Eliza gasping at the end of that, as she does at the end of this.
Yeah.
The
Eliza
and I don't know if
gasp
it's just
is
that I'm
kinda
not
famous.
remembering. Yeah, which I'm like, because when that happened, I was like, I don't remember that in the production I saw.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, is that I think in the production I saw, my memory is that King George was a bit more mobile in some of the songs he sung.
Oh, well, when
And so I was kind of surprised when Jonathan Groff is just standing there. So,
well, the versions I saw, not Jonathan Groff.
right.
The King's two main songs, I didn't think deviated that much from what I saw on TV. Now,
Yeah,
the
for
King
some reason I
does.
thought I remembered him dancing at some point.
Well, the King does dance during the Reynolds pamphlet.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is in Reynolds' pamphlet, and then immediately afterwards, the King goes and sits in a chair and is watching the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I didn't remember from the version I saw.
Oh, I do remember actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I just missed it because I was looking at something else.
And that's where the King really dances around. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I thought I remembered him particularly when he leads the crowd in singing the does. I thought I remembered him sort of dancing around a little bit during that, but maybe that's just my memory remembering things wrong.
Well, every actor makes it their own too, I suppose, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the other difference was there's something about seeing a show with a crowd of people
Oh, yeah.
that makes it different too. Like, it wasn't just like the energy on television was different, but the energy in the room where you're actually observing it
Where it
is
actually
different,
happens.
too.
I mean, the room where it happens.
No, yeah, exactly. Could we keep going back to that one, maybe?
Sure. I can go back to a lot of them, actually.
I'm
Just let me know when you're satisfied with what I'm doing.
No, not yet. Not yet.
No, you're gonna be helpless to stop me.
Well, you know, if you would just be quiet for a minute, or just shut up, it would be quiet uptown.
Also, guns and ships.
If you go to Guns and Ships one more time. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard to make Guns and Ships work, though.
It does. I really wanted to find a way to stick it in. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do that.
No.
So,
No, you'd have to be pretty high in Monticello to make that work. Anyway, anything else on the difference between theater and television?
no, I mean, I think that was the main point. I guess there is. I do like the fact that having it on the Disney Plus does sort of allow more people to see it.
Yeah, but
than,
I read something
um,
interesting about that. Because it was interesting to me when Hamilton first appeared in theaters. It was like it felt like to me overwhelming approval.
yes,
People loved it. But when it dropped
yes,
on Disney Plus, the response felt different. And one of the things I
hmm
read was somebody suggesting that Hamilton was more praised by the elite when only the elite could see it, but that
yeah. I think I read something similar.
the way in which Disney kind of democratized it by opening it up to everybody, had
hmm
caused kind of a counter reaction on the part of elites and
Yeah.
intellectuals who are now more critical of it, which I thought was kind of an interesting idea to play with.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there were some elites and intellectuals that did not care for it when it first came out.
No, it's true, but am I wrong?
'Cause I don't know if you're familiar with the haunting of Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, I've got some notes on that for later, but
Yeah, I've got notes on that too.
but I don't I remember, and maybe I'm misremembering. There's a higher volume of criticism about Hamilton now than there
Yes.
was when Hamilton first broke on the national consciousness.
Yes. Well, I think also when Hamilton broke on the national consciousness, it was a couple years ahead of where we are now in terms of race in U.S. And so I think seeing
Sure.
Hamilton now, it means something very different in the midst of Black Lives Matter and the social unrest that we're having than it did prior to that.
Right, that Hamilton the musical arose during the age of Obama, and Hamilton the Disney Plus version arose during the age of Trump.
Well, except, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, because what? Hamilton started, I think, in 20, well, I know the film version that's on Disney Plus is from 2016.
Yeah,
So
but
that
I mean,
would be, that would still be, I mean, that would be age of well, I guess that would still be the very late age of Obama.
well, it would be
Um,
Obama. Really, Trump doesn't get inaugurated until 2017. But I mean,
right, but I mean, there is still,
I
but
guess
it's
that
also
would
very
just-
much, I mean, there's still, like, there was the performance that Pence went to and that the actors sort of spoke to him after the bows.
Well, I don't want to
Uh,
bring facts into this, but it debuted January 20th, 2015.
Okay, so it straddles the Obama and Trump era.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, but to me, Hamilton is very much like if it debuted in early 2015. Obviously, Lin-Manuel Miranda was writing it before January 20th, 2015. It is.
No, I think he wrote it that day. He wrote it.
He
live.
wrote it
That's how
that
they
day.
did it.
He just
Yeah,
sat down
he
and wrote
walked
like,
in.
hey, let's get some friends together and let's perform it. Okay. So as long as you're going to
It's
take,
all very improvisational.
you will defend your being wrong by just making up the most ridiculous nonsense. I now
Well,
understand.
that's why I remember things differently from why it's on Disney Plus. It's because clearly it's all improvised.
I now understand your approach to the show more generally, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to continue your point.
No. I just assumed you were pouting.
Nope. I am clearing the way for you to speak.
Oh, very nice. So I got nothing more to say on that, except that clearly it debuted in the age of Obama, and now we live in the age of Trump. Not that Obama was like some kind of idyllic racial paradise in the United States, but Americans imagined something different.
Those
in
were good years when
2015.
race no longer mattered.
Yep. For 8 glorious years, race was okay.
8 glorious years, race was
Yep.
not a matter, and
Nope.
now we're back to it.
Yep. You would have thought those 8 years would have fixed everything.
Yeah, fixed it. Well, I mean, Obama could have fixed coronavirus, and now we're just stuck in the middle of it. So
Spent all that
what are you
time
gonna
patting ourselves so hard on the back, we forgot to actually, do something about it.
do? Well, that's true. Well, I mean, we did pat ourselves on the back, which we're good at.
Oh, there's a lot of back patting. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, and some backpedaling.
Well, the backpedaling comes later. Although,
No.
really, did they have to
So I
pedal backwards
No, but-
very hard? I don't think so.
I do give Miranda credit in the sense that he, in response to the criticisms, he said that they are all valid.
Oh, for sure. I think one of the impressive things about Lin-Manuel Miranda is he's been willing to talk about and acknowledge shortcomings and problems.
Yeah. Yeah, so I give him a lot of credit for that. I mean, again, sort of holding something like Hamilton up. I mean, in terms of the criticisms about it being inaccurate.
Oh, here we go.
What?
Those criticisms drive me a little bit nuts.
How so? Because
like the way it, like, if we're gonna measure Hamilton only in terms of historical accuracy, like, we're wasting all of our energy on the musical Hamilton. Like, we're putting it all in the wrong direction.
Well, we're also wasting
Musical.
all of our energy measuring it by, historical accuracy, in a production where everybody's singing. Like,
Yeah.
it's a musical. We don't hold
It's-
we shouldn't hold musicals up. I mean, there's no pretense in Hamilton to some kind of historical verisimilitude.
Well, there is, of course, right? It's based on the Chernow book.
It is, but even then,
it's
it's a condensation of the Chernow book.
Right, and it's acted by people of color who obviously weren't in those kinds of positions. I guess my point is,
Right.
like, the whole point of Hamilton is that it's about now, not then.
Right.
The what I see Lin-Manuel Miranda doing is talking about where we are now and wanting to talk about immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And not wanting to, he's using Hamilton as a vehicle to do that, but to step into it and to be worried about, like, the date on which Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton first met is to miss the point of the show.
Well, I would add, in terms of, he's commenting about immigration, but I think also by the end of the musical, he's also commenting on gender.
Yes.
In a way that sort of that in a way very much kind of sneaks up on you.
Do you think he's doing that intentionally?
I think yes, I mean, because it's pretty early on that Eliza makes the point about wanting to be part of the narrative.
Right.
I mean, obviously, the whole idea of Eliza inserting herself into the narrative becomes most prominent with Burn, and then with the finale.
Right.
But I mean, it's I mean, she's got that through line of wanting to be part of the narrative from fairly early on in.
No, I think
the play.
that's
So
fair.
I think there is I think it's, and I think it sneaks up on you because you're not really expecting the end of the play to showcase Eliza in the way that it does.
Right, especially because so much of the play showcases the dudes.
Right. But at the same time, I mean, a lot of the stuff, Angelica is sort of playing a facilitating role in a lot of things. That I think the ways in which the women seem to be kind of secondary and then end up being sort of primary. I mean, in the end, a lot of kind of Hamilton's story, Hamilton's narrative, is in the hands of Angelica and Eliza because
that's true.
they live longer than him.
Well, spoiler alert.
So, well, I mean, if you don't know Hamilton dies in the play, then
Hamilton dies?
Spoiler alert.
no, he lives forever.
Oh, okay, good. Like Santa Claus.
Yes, he's reincarnated as a middle-aged English professor in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's so sad.
He must be very proud of what he's accomplished in life.
Oh yeah. History kind of has taken his eyes off Hamilton at this point.
100%.
Yeah, history's like, oh, that narrative's done.
Yeah.
So I think, and so like you, I think Miranda had a particular ideas he was working with in terms of immigration and gender.
Yes.
That I think sort of maybe caused him to miss some of the stuff that's being critiqued about the play now.
Right. Which is what makes it so interesting. Like, the politics of the whole thing are so complicated.
Yeah, which of course is another reason why I think Hamilton is, significant as a work of art. That in some ways, the not just it being on Disney Plus, but the criticism that has come to the play from it being on Disney Plus, has kind of given it a second life.
Yes, I agree. Totally agree. It gets me to the one fair or foul I brought for you today, actually.
Oh, I've got a few.
Well, and we don't have to go to fair or foul, but it just seems like you've kind of raised it.
Oh,
So this,
well, before we go to fair or foul, if you want,
yeah.
I do have a ranking of the best characters in Hamilton we could discuss.
Oh, well, let's just do the one fair or foul that talks to the point now, and then we can do your ranking.
Okay. Well, it's not my ranking, it's from Screen Rant, but
Got it.
Go ahead.
That
So
you
this is Alex
uploaded to them.
Nichols from... Right. Alex Nichols from Current Affairs. Quote, thus Hamilton...
Wait, Current Affairs, the show that used to have, what's-his-face?
Exactly. You know, by the place and the thing.
Oh, that's right.
O'Reilly.
What's his
Bill
face?
O'Reilly.
He wasn't on Current Affairs. He was on... what was his show called?
2020?
I thought it was Current Affairs.
Nah.
Nightline?
No, Bill O'Reilly was not on Nightline.
No, Bill O'Reilly and Nightline should not go.
I thought he was on a Current Affairs-esque... Oh, Inside Edition. That's what he
There
was
you go.
on.
Inside Edition. Yep.
That's right. Okay, from Current Affairs then.
Yeah, so Inside Edition and Current Affairs apparently the exact same thing.
They were pretty close. I remember Current Affairs.
Quote, thus Hamilton's superficial diversity lets its almost entirely white audience feel good about watching it. No guilt for seeing dead white men in a positive light required.
That's
Yeah, I think that's fair for a lot of people.
So where does the feel good come from?
I think they can feel good about the way in which having all of the founding fathers and characters played by non-white performers allows them to, and their enjoyment of it allows them to sort of acknowledge race in a way that's not really acknowledging race in any kind of significant way.
Yeah. Interesting.
That they're like, oh, I like, that he did this, and thus I am not racist.
Right.
So I think I could see that again, kind of going back to the fact that, as you said, when it first came out, the elites really had a profoundly positive. I think there's ways in which that you can certainly, and people can certainly critique the film or the play for a kind of, maybe even kind of going back to a kind of post-war liberalism and kind of its very sort of sweeping vision of racial equality, that Hamilton in some ways, for people that want to see that kind of idealistic vision without really having to do anything to achieve it in reality, I think Hamilton feeds some of those. Well, I can see ways in which Hamilton would feed some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. In part because I think Miranda makes a clear decision that he wants to recenter U.S. history as immigration history.
Yes.
So that's the story he's going to tell. And that has really powerful implications to the progressive side of the ledger, I suppose, in reminding us that immigration history is American history and vice versa. But on the other hand, in deciding that he's going to recenter U.S. history as immigrant history, it also leads to Native Americans being ignored and African Americans getting... Okay, they're not entirely ignored, I suppose. Sally Hemings shows up briefly in Hamilton's abolitionist credentials get kind of over-polished a little bit. But like, how do you balance that? And there's something I think quintessentially American about in trying to focus your attention and tell the story of immigrants. It almost requires that Native Americans and African Americans not be addressed.
Yeah, well, I think it's to sort of rephrase what you said a little while ago is Miranda's decision to kind of center this play on immigration like you said, has really interesting implications
Yeah,
and also has really interesting consequences.
yeah, and some of them
And I think that's and again, to his credit, he acknowledges and accepts the consequences and the critiques that
right.
they are all fair to say. And again, I think it's one of the things that's, as we said, to his credit. But yeah, it's got, I mean, he's telling a particular story, but, it's a particular story, which means it's inherently focused on some things and not focusing on others.
The problem is for Miranda, I think, is that you could make the argument, I want to write a musical about immigrants, and so it's not going to be so much about these other groups, but the conscious choices he makes to kind of clean Hamilton's record in terms of race
Yeah.
becomes deeply problematic. To me, it's a much more authentic and interesting musical if Miranda pauses to kind of wrestle with the way in which ethnic advancement in this country historically has often meant keeping other groups down and oppressed.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to look at that. He wants to tell what is a bit more of a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
So, second question, how do you balance the opportunities created for all of these non-white actors against the violence that was done to history to make it happen that way?
I think you have to acknowledge both things. That, as with everything else in the play, the benefit for one had consequences for the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that no work of art is going to be perfect, and that it's going to be, it's going to be product of a particular mind, and that mind is going to have limitations. So I think you have to do what's being done, which is, acknowledge what Hamilton was doing, what Miranda wanted to do, but also acknowledge, the limitations of that and the consequences that come from that.
Right, and that you want art to provoke.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is I think it's another testament to Hamilton as art is that it is still provoking.
Yes. Now, I also read from Alex Nichols that Hamilton was papering over inequality with representational diversity. How far would you carry that kind of argument?
Well, I think it depends. Because I kind of agree with you in that I don't see... Hamilton is, like you said, it's a fairy tale. For me, it's kind of a fantasy version of U.S. history. And so, on the one hand, I don't really hold Hamilton up to kind of this idea of as the quote you said about kind of what was it again, papering over
papering over
inequality.
Yeah,
with the kind of diversity,
representational diversity.
Representation. I mean, on the one hand, I mean, given that we are at or near the point where whites are a minority within U.S., it is kind of the representational diversity probably kind of reflects where we are in some ways.
Yeah.
And in ways that particularly the white majority doesn't like to think about America.
Yeah.
So, I think there's value to the way in which, I think the other thing too, I think there's value to the way in which that Hamilton asks us to imagine America's founding differently, because we don't really ever think of the founding fathers as non-white.
Right.
We don't really think of the people that founded this country as non-white, as immigrants, and yet Hamilton very much was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think in some ways, by sort of the way in which that it exaggerates the diversity of the founding fathers, it starts to make us think about the ways in which we have erased the immigrant past of this nation's founding.
Yeah. No, I'm
And so
with
I
you.
think there is, I think because you don't, I mean, I think prior to this play, nobody really thought of Alexander Hamilton as anything but white, to the extent they thought of Alexander Hamilton.
Right.
And yet he is an immigrant. And so the way in which that it kind of, I think, starts to, by so dramatically unwhitewashing the American past and unrealistically unwhitewashing, I think it does sort of start to call attention to ways in which we have actually whitewashed
Yeah.
U.S. history, and I think there's value in that. And so, and in that, it maybe starts to actually get us to start thinking about ways in which inequality is very much based in the founding of this country in ways that we also don't think about. So I can see the point about, I guess sort of superficially, it is kind of papering over inequality with representational diversity. But I think the representational diversity starts to get us to think about some of the inequalities that existed in how we perceive the founding of the country.
Sure, but I think it does more than just that. If you think about Hamilton as kind of a meta phenomenon and not just a musical, because that representational diversity on stage gave birth to careers that would not have the same kind of power and influence. Like, people know who Chris Jackson is. Anthony Ramos, Lin-Manuel Miranda says is going to be a star, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. Leslie Odom Jr., Lin-Manuel Miranda, Philippa Soo, like, all of these people have gone on to careers that were in part made possible by Hamilton.
Was Philippa Soo, when you guys went and saw The Great Comet, was Philippa Soo in that?
She was not. We saw Danae Benton, actually, in The Great Comet.
Because she was, I saw a thing where she was in the play at some point.
She was, but we saw.
So I wasn't sure if that was when you had seen her or not. Okay.
Nope, we saw Danae Benton, actually, ironically, as both, in both The Comet and in Hamilton, as Eliza.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
By the way, Danae Benton is also unbelievably fantastic.
Well, that's the other. I don't know if you've seen. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the video of the Roots and the Hamilton cast doing "Helpless."
I did. Yep.
The vocal talent.
Oh yeah.
Like, I watched that video and I'm like, they're singing in their rooms and I'm like, it sounds exactly like the soundtrack.
The thing is, to fully appreciate the show, you have to see it in the theater for that reason, exactly.
Yeah, like, it's just the vocal ability of particularly the original cast. Like, it's just amazing to see. Yep. Like, they are just in there. And what I also love about the Helpless video is that it's mostly the women singing, and yet they've got the entire male cast there. Just I don't think Leslie Odom sings a single note in that version, yet he's there the whole time.
Yeah. Yep.
Just dancing and grooving.
Well, how do you not groove to that song?
Yeah.
Although, we're going to get to your list. Like, if you had to rank your top 3 musical numbers from the show, what would they be?
Oh, for me? Oh, geez. Boy. Wait For It is probably my number 1.
Really?
Yeah, I love Wait For It. And then I probably would go back and forth between Room Where It Happens and Helpless.
Interesting.
It's kind of a 2A and a 2B. I mean, part of it is that I like the Aaron Burr character most of all in the play. So, and yeah, Wait For It for me is definitely my favorite. And then, depending on mood, either Helpless. It used to be Wait For It and then Room Where It Happens, but the more I hear Helpless, the more Helpless kind of moves up for me.
Yeah.
And then Satisfied as well is in there.
Yeah. I think I would pick 3 different ones, actually.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think my favorite song of the whole show is "Take a Break."
Oh, okay.
In part because I love Sue so much. In part
Yeah.
because I just think, like, when you talk about a perfectly designed and executed song, the way in which Eliza and Angelica sing together and against each other in that song is just
Yeah.
like so for me, "Take a Break" would be, I think, my favorite. But I also love Yorktown. Like the world turned upside down.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like that, and so
I mean, that's the thing. I'm not sure there's a clunker in the show to begin
well,
with.
there's not. And then Burn is
Uh.
also such a.
Yeah, Burn is. Yeah.
And then my dark horse would be "It's Quiet Uptown," which is one of the saddest songs
Yeah.
that I've ever seen or heard performed.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think in most of your choices and in all of mine, Miranda is not featured in them.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Sue in particular. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Odom Jr. and every time I hear Sue sing, I'm more and more a fan of
Yeah.
particularly. I mean the Roots video with her.
yeah,
I mean she anchors that whole thing.
oh, she's
Like she's so much of that song. I'm like it kind of got me to think about it. Like yeah, like she is carrying on. She carries so much of
yeah,
and again, it's one of the things that again, one of the reasons why I think Hamilton works on Disney Plus is so much of it comes down to the individual performances of people like Sue, and Odom Jr. and Daveed Diggs and Goldsberry,
who are just brilliant performers.
who are it's one of the things I kind of find funny. If I had to choose anyone who has kind of a weaker voice in the show, it's Miranda.
Yeah, and yet, maybe because he wrote the show, it suits him so well.
It does, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that original cast is just so full of talent.
Yeah, brilliant, just brilliant.
Yeah.
So, speaking of brilliance, did you bring some kind of a list that tried to rank the best characters?
I did. Yeah, they ranked the top 10.
I feel like we've spent too much time, like talking seriously about this, and we should go back to what we do better.
Oh, what's that?
It's mindless, insipid rankings.
Okay, good, excellent. So, number 10,
Yes.
George Washington.
I feel like that's ranked about right, actually.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, why don't you do a too low, too high? Okay, number 9.
Well, Chris Jackson's great, but
Yeah.
it's not the biggest part. And that song is the song he sings as he's going, as he says goodbye. Teach him how to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
It always makes Hope cry. Like it's
Oh, it's a great song.
It's
I saw something
brilliant.
that was, because I guess he and Miranda, I guess, are good friends.
Yes.
And I saw something that says, how great it must feel that basically, your best friend wrote a song for you to just belt out, and he just gets to stand there and just watch you do it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I think I'd say that's about right, but only because I think there are, like, I might put him up a notch or two, but there's just too many.
Yeah,
above him.
given who's coming, I would move him up a notch. So number 9 is Hercules Mulligan.
I think he and George Washington are at about the right place, but like,
Yeah, I'd probably flip them. I'd
How do
probably
you-
put Mulligan 10, Washington 9.
but like the way in which it's cast, right? So that Hercules Mulligan then becomes Madison,
Oh, well, just wait for that.
and if like to me, the juxtaposition between the same guy playing Mulligan and Madison is one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah.
Like, I really like James Madison in terms of comic relief. He's hilarious.
Oh yeah, the James Madison is pretty funny.
Played as white as he possibly could be. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. All right, number 8 is John Lawrence.
Yeah, although the way he flips to become Philip just makes it more complicated, right? But I would say that that's about right. Like, I would put Lafayette in that same group with them. I don't think I rate Lafayette maybe as highly as most people do, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's see what the list says.
Yeah. All right, so number 6 is King George.
Yeah, again, he probably could be higher, but the part is so limited that I wouldn't put him much higher.
Yeah.
So
number 5 is
not to any women yet, right?
Not yet. No, we haven't gotten any women yet.
Wow.
Number 5 is Jefferson.
A little high for me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, Jefferson's
that one
not
feels
my
about
favorite.
right for me.
Not my favorite character, but
I enjoy Jefferson. I like Jefferson.
Okay.
So number 4 is Angelica.
That sounds about right to me. Eliza should be ahead of her, and Peggy should be number 1. I'm assuming Peggy's number 1.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay.
So number 3 is Alexander Hamilton.
A little too high for me.
Yeah, I would put him below Angelica.
Yep.
And maybe even below Jefferson, but it would probably be somewhere in there.
I'd put him around King George. So I think
that's about where. I mean, that's basically where I would have him. Yeah.
Same ballpark.
So number 2 is Aaron Burr.
Okay, interesting. Aaron Burr is, I think, one of the more interesting characters I've seen on stage in terms of the psychology.
Yeah, well, he would be my number 1 on this list.
I know he
if I was
would
putting
be for
together
you.
this list, he would be my number 1.
I know you love Burr and you love Javert. Well established.
Javert is great.
So Eliza's number 1 on that list then.
No, number 1 is Samuel Savory.
Oh yeah, he should be number 1 for sure. Samuel Savory. Yeah. Okay, so Eliza's number 1 on the list.
Yes, Eliza is number 1.
Which is where she should be.
See, I'd have her number 1B behind Burr. I just really like Burr's character. I like Burr's songs too. So
yeah. Plus the guy
I'd probably go Burr, Eliza, Angelica would probably be how I would do the top 3.
Yeah, the guy I saw playing Burr looks so much like Mosby from Sweet Life and Sweet Life on Deck.
Okay, these are references that I do not understand.
You've never seen the Sweet Life on Deck?
We've had this conversation. No, I have never. I do not watch the Disney Channel.
Dude, Kevin Garnett showed up on one of those shows and taught the twins how to play ball.
Chris Bosh enjoyed it.
I don't even know why
it
you
was
think
Chris
that.
Bosh.
I don't think
Yeah.
It wasn't wasn't Garnett there? There wasn't an older guy there with him?
I think it was Bosch and Howard and maybe one other guy.
Okay.
I can look it up.
All right. Anyway, I would put Eliza first. I would put Peggy second.
Okay, see, that's just silly.
Then I would probably go Burr and King George, kind of in that area, and then the gang. Oh, wait, no, Angelica should be in front of all of those, too.
Yeah. Also, you haven't mentioned Hamilton yet.
For a show that's called Hamilton, that's about Hamilton, the show really turns out to be Burr and Eliza, right?
Well, that's one of the things I found. I saw something that said interesting about the show is called Hamilton, which means it could just as easily be about Eliza as it is Alexander.
True.
That she's in fact, you probably should call the show Hamiltons. Because in the end, it's almost as much about her as it is Alexander.
Well, it seems like it is and it isn't. Like, it's fraught and it's complicated at the end.
Yeah. I mean, particularly when you think about it, that you've got... you do have... you obviously have the opening song where almost everyone is breaking the fourth wall.
Right.
And then obviously you've got the potential fourth wall break at the end with Eliza. Alexander doesn't break the fourth wall nearly as much as the other characters.
It's true, but isn't Eliza, the work she does and the agency she has, it's directed to Alexander, right?
And also Washington. She gets the Washington Monument built.
Right, but, so even if it's about women and or feminism, there's still kind of a subordination that's going on there.
Yeah, except that I think the orphanage is really kind of her own thing.
What's that?
The orphanage is kind of her own thing.
Well, except that he was an orphan, essentially. And she's again, doing it for him, inspired by him. I just think, there's that line she sings after he's died, you would have done so much more. if you only had time. And it's a line that I always wrestle with because I think it can be read in at least a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
But like he could have done so much more than what? Than he did, than she did for him, than she did in his name. There's just I want it to be stronger than I think it is sometimes at the end and making the point you see it making.
Well, I think there's a lot of ways that, as the criticisms have shown, there's a lot of ways that Hamilton could be better.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, I think, take away from what it does well.
It can still be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And contradictory. And vexed. So where do you rank Peggy then? She's not even in your top 10, apparently. Do you put her in like Samuel Seabury area?
No, she's probably around Hercules Mulligan area for me.
Okay.
So she's probably right. I mean, if Mulligan would be my number 10, she's probably right around there.
Wait, was Lafayette not on your list?
No, he's in there.
No, but
He's
the list
number
you
7
read
on
to
the
me.
list.
He's number 7.
Yeah, he's on there. He's number 7.
I missed him somehow. Did you mention him last time, or did you?
Yeah, you
over
talked about him. You talked about him. You said
What did I
Lafayette.
say?
You don't like Lafayette as much as other people seem to.
Oh, yeah, but then I didn't think you gave him an actual number. Doesn't matter.